Welcome everybody to Bases and Brews episode 22 with Ben and Brandon. This is our weekly podcast where we talk about baseball and beer. We stream the show live every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come give us a follow. Watch us live on Twitch. If you watch us live on Twitch, you get to watch us have our post show after. If you can't catch us live, go watch us over on YouTube or listen on podcast services like Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts. Just search for Bases and Brews. Also, go give us a follow on Twitter at Bases Brews to get baseball news and updates about the podcast. So yeah, how you doing this week, man?
I am doing good.
That's good.
It's been kind of a shit show this week, but I've been good.
Yeah, I hear you. Kind of same boat here.
I feel that. I feel like everything I'm doing this week is like take one step forward, two steps back. One step forward, two steps back.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had weeks like that.
But it's all right. We're getting there. So what you got on tap tonight?
All right. So I actually wanted to keep this in the box because this box is fucking cool as hell.
Okay, that is sick.
So it's called Lone Pint Brewery. Don't actually know where it is. I'm assuming somewhere in Texas. Yeah, Magnolia, Texas.
That's pretty sick. You just keep it in the box in your mini fridge?
Yeah. but yeah, so this like somehow opens and then you have like individual.
Oh, that's kind of rad.
Now, what I don't know, so all the tops on the bottles, I'm sure it's probably really small, so you can't tell very well, but they're all different.
Okay.
So I don't know if all the beer is different, but if it is, that's fine. Looks like they're all the same. But, yeah, it's called the Yellow Rose Smash IPA from Lone Pint Brewery. Yeah.
That's dope. What kind? So it's just an IPA that you're drinking?
Yeah. The bottles are cool too. They're not like, I don't have an old bottle laying around, but
they're like thick,
really wide.
And then
yeah.
I actually really like that style of bottle.
And the label's pretty sweet too. But
oh yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. Really cool looking. Definitely excited to try these. But yeah, I wanted to leave them in here until
we started. So
we started, so I could
that's
no,
pretty
I'll
rad.
throw them back in my fridge. What do you got this week?
I am drinking the best beer in the world. And it's not a debate. Don't even try and debate me. It is the best beer in the world. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Anybody out there, if you're a baseball fan, you like Pabst Blue Ribbon. And if you don't like Pabst Blue Ribbon, you're not a true baseball fan. Pabst Blue Ribbon is so good. My personal favorite beer. I don't care how rich I get, Pabst Blue Ribbon will always be my favorite beer.
Funny. I know a lot of people who love Pabst. I do not.
Oh, one thing that was cool. Check out my glass.
That's pretty sick. Did you just get that?
No, apparently it's been up in my fucking not closet, but up in the
cupboard.
Cupboard for like months, and I just didn't know they were up there. But it holds almost 2 beers, so
nice. Hell yeah.
So I've got 2 sitting on tap, waiting for as soon as I empty this out to put it.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it came with like a little screw top. So like I could actually like seal the top of this. Did you forget to take the dog out again?
No.
Okay, before we get into anything, let's go. I'm officially jumping on the bandwagon. I'm gonna stop being a Debbie Downer of my Giants. It's I think far enough past the All-Star break that I can finally get back on board and trust that they're not going to completely choke the best record in baseball.
Yeah. Looking promising. They had a really good week.
It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some hot and cold then, and we'll talk about your Giants, who have opened it up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
They now have the best record in baseball by 4 games. Last what? 3 weeks? It's been like 1 game.
Yeah, or like 2 games, I think, at most.
Yeah. But yeah, they opened it up to a 4-game the best record in baseball.
They are in for a really rough stretch, though, coming like in about a week.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing the Brewers, the A's, the Mets. I think they play the Brewers again, and I think they play the Dodgers. And they're all either second-place teams or basically it's all playoff teams, people in contention.
Right.
So it's all going to be next 2 to 3 weeks is going to be real rough.
Yeah. And to nobody's surprise, the Arizona Diamondbacks bring up the rear.
Okay.
Also with a 4-game lead for the worst record in baseball.
So the Giants almost lost 3 of 4 to Arizona.
Oof.
They just finished playing them last night, where they scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to win the 3rd of the 4th game on that series. It was something the Giants hadn't done, fun fact, since 1993. They had 800 games where they had been down by 4 runs in the 9th inning and had lost. 800 straight games or something. It was 800 or 805 or something, right around there. So they hadn't come back from a deficit like that since 93.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
A couple other guys on the list. This happened against the Indians, and it was kind of cool. So this dude's name is Sebi Zavala. I think his actual name is Sebastian, but he goes by Sebi. So he's the first player in baseball history to have his first 3 home runs of his career in 1 game.
Yeah.
So he had never hit. He's a rookie, I think, but he's been up for a month, and his first 3 home runs were all in 1 game. It was nuts.
Well, fun fact, he had 5 hits
Did he?
before he hit those 3 home runs. Career, he had 5 hits.
Oh, I thought you meant in that game.
No. Just in his entire career, he had 5 hits going into that game, and he hit 3 home runs. He almost doubled his hit total in 1 game.
Yeah, he even now, this happened Monday or Tuesday, and even now he's only played in 5 games total. He's only gotten 12 plate appearances in his career. So, or no, I'm sorry, that was last 29. Okay, I'm sorry. He's played in 16 games this year.
Okay.
46 at bats. But yeah, he has 9 hits in 58 at bats for a whopping 180 batting average.
Damn.
But yeah. And then the other one we got on the hot list is all of the traded Chicago Cubs. Because they all did something that's never happened, and that's they all hit a home run in their first game after being traded, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is actually kind of nuts. I think
when you trade away 15 players, 3 of them are bound to hit home runs, I guess.
Well, when you trade away everybody that's any good on your team, you're
right.
That team, the Cubs on paper were not a terrible team.
Yeah.
When you look at who they had, who they got rid of.
They had good players, they just weren't playing well.
Yeah. So, that doesn't surprise me too much, to be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not a huge surprise, but it is still kind of a cool little thing. I just threw in your Discord as we end our hot and cold segment here. I don't know if that's gonna work. There we go. So, getting into our first news article. Unless you had something else.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so really cool this week on. Oh, I'm gonna forget. I think it's Thursday.
It is the 12th. It's on Thursday.
Thursday the 12th. Is the Field of Dreams game, which is really cool. If you haven't seen it yet, let me post the link in chat. They have a artist rendering of the field and stuff. But basically, they're recreating the Field of Dreams movie. They're in the Iowa cornfield. They built a new stadium, like right next to where the field from the movie is. But yeah, it looks really cool. Apparently, like there was a waiting list of like 40,000 people to get tickets, and there's only like 2,000 seats or something like that.
Yeah, it's a really small like venue because
it's like a minor league park.
Yeah,
like there's one row or one level of seating, and it goes just from the foul pole to foul pole around the infield. Like there's no seating in the outfield because it's corn. And yeah. So, but yeah, this was supposed to happen last year, but it got pushed back because of COVID. And then the thing I sent you in Discord was they actually just showed off the uniforms. And they look pretty sick.
I saw the field. They actually showed on like I think it was this morning I saw it.
Have they showed actual pictures?
Yeah, they showed like actual like drone footage and stuff of like the field. The field's gonna be dope. The outfield, they painted the fence green, so it's a chain link fence that's just green.
Right.
And if you're not like close, if you're looking at it from maybe a camera from far away, which is like
you just see the corn.
All you see is corn. It almost looks like there is no fence there. It's actually really cool.
Fun fact, it's the first game in MLB history to be played in Iowa.
Oh, interesting. I thought they did a Field of Dreams, though. Like a year
they did, they didn't play it there. They played it somewhere else.
That's crazy.
But yeah, the White Sox jerseys for this look awesome. The Yankees jerseys look like the same exact Yankees jerseys that they currently wear. Because the Yankees are dumb and haven't changed their jerseys in 150 years.
I mean, that's not really a surprise, though.
No, not at all. I think not even the hat is different. Like they're wearing like modern hats. It's dumb. The White Sox jerseys look awesome though.
That's fair.
But yeah, really cool. I definitely want to try to tune in for this at least a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, it should be a fun one.
It's such a cool idea. Oh wait, no. Yeah, I'll have to try to find that video of the what's it called? The video you were talking about with
Yeah, they were showing it on MLB Central or something like that this morning, so you might be able to like YouTube MLB Central.
Yeah,
whatever.
It shouldn't be tough to find.
But they were showing pictures of the actual field. It's gonna be pretty dope. I think it's gonna look really cool. It's gonna be fun.
I believe for anybody who wants to watch it, I believe it's gonna be free on MLB.com to watch. Like it's gonna be their free game of the day. Also, if you don't know, MLB.TV does a free game every day you can go watch. So I believe for that day it's going to be this one, but I could be wrong. I know it's going to be on Fox if you have cable. But yeah, that'll be exciting. It's such a cool idea. Like, who doesn't love Field of Dreams?
Right.
And then the last one is the 2022. Man, that's confusing to say. All right. 2022 schedule got released this week. I believe like Tuesday or Wednesday.
I heard about that.
And I mean, not really a huge deal. It's not like football where it like really matters that much because you play pretty much everybody. But every team, they're doing what they did this year. Every team is going to play on opening day. And then they'll have like half the teams play the following day, and then half the teams will be off. And then the day after that, the teams that were off will play, and the teams that played on day 2 will be off. So
okay.
I really, we talked about it at the beginning of the year, how much we liked the fact that opening day was actually opening day for everybody, as opposed to previous years where they had like one game or like 2 or 3 games were opening day, and then like your team didn't even play most of the time. So,
yeah, I've always found that kind of weird.
Yeah.
Just in any sport, because I think it's the same for football. I think it's the same for basketball. Not every team plays on opening day for the season.
Yeah, I mean, football kind of makes sense because they have like Thursday night.
Yeah.
So they have like they especially do it for the preseason with like the Hall of Fame game takes place like a week and a half before everyone else for the preseason. But yeah.
Yeah, I know that for sure.
But yeah, all right. Let's get into the big topic here, which is our personal most overrated and underrated players in Major League Baseball currently.
This is going to be a fun one.
I'm excited. So we decided to go with our top 5 underrated players first, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to throw something out here for you as an honorable mention.
Okay.
And you're going to be confused.
Wait, so honorable mention for overrated, right?
No.
Or underrated. Underrated, okay.
Underrated, honorable mention, Mike Trout.
So actually, I 100% agree with you, because even though when they actually talk about him, everyone says he's the best player in baseball, but how often do people talk about him over other people?
Right. Okay, so
I would agree with you on that one.
There's 2 aspects here. There's what you just said, which is 100% valid. The other aspect is everyone agrees Mike Trout's the best player in baseball, but he is one of the best players to ever play baseball. And like, I feel like nobody's realizing that we are watching history in baseball with him every time he plays, pretty much.
I
think part of it is because of the fact that the Angels suck.
Well, and I feel like we've talked about this before. I think we both think it's a travesty that he re-signed with the Angels.
Yes.
Because they're
especially for the 12-year contract.
Yeah, he's basically the rest of his career is in LA unless someone decides they really want him and he falls off a fucking cliff.
Right. Because the Angels aren't giving him up unless he really falls.
But I personally would 100% agree with that. Like, I wanted to put him on my list, but when I started thinking about it, I'm like, no, because when anybody actually does talk about him, everybody's in agreement that he's the best player in baseball.
Right. Yeah. I put him there as an honorable mention, not because anybody doesn't realize he's good, but because people don't look at what he's doing overall.
Like, for like a
historical number. Yeah. But yeah,
it's a good honorable mention, because I agree with that one.
That I'm like, I don't want to put him on my list, but he deserves to be at least mentioned about how good he is.
More people need to talk about Mike Trout. We'll just put it that way.
The Angels need to do more for Mike Trout too.
At this point, people are saying that, like, if you ask people, like, people would talk about Ohtani over Mike Trout right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of that is the fact that Mike Trout's been out all year.
Since we're gonna do we're gonna add one. I'm gonna do one for the overrated, and I'm just gonna do it now. And I think an honorable mention is Ohtani.
Okay.
I'm not saying what he's doing
for overrated.
I'm not saying what he's doing isn't incredible, but like the dude's done it for half a year.
I mean,
and we're literally saying like he's the next coming of fucking Babe Ruth. Like, miss me with that bullshit. Tell me when he does this for like 2 or 3 years, then maybe we can have that conversation.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it before on the podcast about how like longevity is going to be his big thing.
Like, but don't get me wrong. I'm not saying what he's doing isn't incredible because it is pretty fucking impressive.
Right. No, I understand what you mean.
For me, as an honorable mention, he's not on my list. But like, I would put him as like they're talking about him historically, like they should be talking about Mike Trout historically. And Mike Trout's actually been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of that, I thought that was a good play right there.
That makes sense. Yeah. But okay, so let's get into our actual top 5, not in any order, underrated players in baseball. So I'd mentioned to you before that I went the route for underrated of players who maybe get awards or like recognition in the league, but not necessarily from fans when you think about like top players. So I'm going to be a homer for the first one here.
Okay,
and
so
I'm going to say,
just real quick before we start, just to preface my list. So my list is basically former All-Stars, MVPs, but they're people that like you just don't really, when you talk about like the best players in baseball, I don't feel like these names come up a lot until they're specifically like mentioned.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But like, if you were to talk about like the best players, these guys like get glossed over like crazy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I will start with mine, and that is, as a homer, Jose Ramirez.
Okay.
He's a player that the average fan doesn't even know who he is. The dude has finished in the top 3 in MVP voting 3 of the last 5 years. He's won Silver Slugger at third base 4 of the last 5 years. He's been an All-Star 3 of the last 5 years. The dude, his numbers have gone up almost every single season for home runs, RBIs. His batting average is a little, he went with the analytics, but he's still, like, last season he hit 292. He's hit over 300 3 times, like, including one year he batted 333.
For the season?
Yeah.
That's insane.
But, like, yeah, I mean, he's a fan favorite in Cleveland. Like, everybody knows him there. But, like, outside of Cleveland, most people do not know Jose Ramirez, or at least think of him that way.
So I know who he is. I didn't realize he had been that good. So, like, he that's one that slipped under my radar, too.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, he hits consistently over 25 to 30 home runs. He had one year he had 39. What the hell? Chair just dropped. Usually hits around 100 RBIs. But yeah, last year he finished second in MVP voting. 2018 he finished third. 2017 he finished third.
To me that's crazy because when I hear, like, I watch MLB Central, not the whole show because I have to leave for work, but I watch it almost every morning before I go to work, like while I'm getting dressed and shit.
Yeah.
You would think someone that good that would be talked about consistently. I don't think I've ever heard his name uttered.
Right. I mean, and that right there is exactly what my list is like, people that are really good and maybe get the awards and get like voting from like peers and writers, but not necessarily fan recognition. So that is my first one.
All right. So since we're talking about semi-younger players, I'll go with the only player on my list that's actually young, because all of my other players are pretty old.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go with Juan Soto.
Interesting.
From Washington. People, when you talk about him, people praise him, but I don't think people outwardly, and maybe that's because I'm on the West Coast, so it's just not talked about as much. This could be like area bias coming in.
Yeah.
But like, just to put in perspective, dude for his career is hitting 296, which, I mean, granted, his career is 4 years.
Yeah.
Like 3.5. But
Right.
this year he's hitting 298, which is better than his career average. He's had 18 home runs. Guy's got, like, his WAR this year is 4.4. It's just pretty solid, wins above replacement.
Yeah.
Like I think he's good, and people don't talk about him as much. Like, he's the only person on. We talked about him a couple weeks ago with the trade deadlines because he was the only one that was left in Washington when they did their fire sale.
Yeah,
and we talked about the only reason he probably got kept was because he's young.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't hear a ton of people talking about him nationally. When it gets specifically to, like, Washington, he's talked about, especially now because he's basically all they have.
Well, right.
But even before, like, when you talked about the Nationals before, I think a lot of the other guys like Scherzer and stuff got wind before he did.
Yeah. Well, especially when they had, I was going to say especially when they had Bryce Harper, but I think he came up the year Bryce Harper left. Or maybe they overlapped 1 year. I'd have to, I'll look.
It was he came up the year before Bryce Harper left. He came up in 18, Bryce Harper left in 19.
So yeah, they had 1 year where they overlapped.
But yeah, so he's my youngest guy on my list, and I think he's killer. Like, he's insanely good. Hits for average. He's got 18 home runs this year. What does he average? Like, he's hit 25, 32, and he hit 14 in the 60-game season, which means he probably would have been about the 25-30 mark for a full season.
Yeah.
If not maybe a few more. So he would have been right on.
Good.
He would have been right on pace with where he's been. Like, this kid's a stud. He's going to be good, and I think he's not going to be underrated for very long. I think he's going to he's going to start getting talked about more nationally.
The crazy thing for me is when you look at his stats, like last year he led the league in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, obviously on-base plus slugging.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. And he finished 5th in MVP voting. Like, and finished above him.
Yeah, and I just don't hear people talking about him a ton. The only reason I, like, know who he is because of all the trade talks that we've, like, went through.
Yeah.
Like, outside of that, you could have said Juan Soto, and I probably would have put it together at some point, but because he's young, I wouldn't have even really thought of him.
That's totally fair. I mean, like you said, like, I know the name when people say his name, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a really good young player. But yeah, I never think of him. You're not wrong.
So that's my youngest guy. So I would put him as one of my underrated guys.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna be going to veterans, then I'll go with a veteran here.
Oh, the rest of my list is old guys.
To be fair, my underrated is all like 9 years or more in the league.
I would say all of mine left are except for maybe one.
All right, so my next one is the guy who has been in the league the longest on my list, and that is Michael Brantley.
Ooh, that's a good pick.
And now with the Astros, not a big fan of that, but Michael Brantley, career over 13 seasons, batting .299.
He's not going to make the Hall of Fame. Didn't hit that 300 mark. Man, that sucks. No,
I mean, he's going to be in the league for a while. So.
I'm just kidding.
No, I know. 6-time All-Star, In 13 years, he's batted over 300 6 times. In 2 of those years, he batted over 325. He's done that twice, over 325.
Damn. So, and that's another one. I know the name, and I know he's been good, but I didn't realize he had been that good.
He's been, and he's kind of an old school hitter where he's not a huge power guy. Like, he's averaging, for 162 game average, he's averaging 15 homers and 82 RBIs, which the RBIs isn't bad, but like in modern baseball, 15 homers is not great.
Yeah, that's not fantastic.
But he's just solid. He's a good defensive player. He's older now. He's not great. He was better when he was younger, but yeah, he's just consistent every single year. Like, his worst year batting since he became like a full-time player was, he had 1 year he was hurt. He only got played in 11 games. So I won't count that one. He batted 284 was his worst year. And he's actually leading at 34 years old. He's actually leading baseball in batting average right now at 331.
Jesus.
And like, his nickname when he was in Cleveland was literally Mr. Consistent.
Ah, so another Cleveland. How long did he play in Cleveland?
10 years.
Okay.
And now he's been in Houston for 3 years.
So you got to watch him for a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mentioned to you, I didn't say it since we were on live, but I noticed not all of my guys, but I had a big bias toward like the AL Central just because I've seen those guys so much. So I know overrated and underrated just because I've watched them play a lot.
So my lists were a little harder to put together because I specifically tried not to do that.
Not all my guys are. My overrated is a lot more spread out. But
I have 4 guys that are out of the 10 in that. So I guess maybe I'm a little more homer than I thought, but
I have 6 of the 10 who at least played significant amount of time in the AL Central. But anyway, so yeah, Michael Brantley is my number 2 most underrated player.
Okay.
Again, these aren't in order. They're just
these are just
my second one.
I don't have mine ordered either because I don't know how I would order these guys, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go, since I started with the youngest, I'm gonna go to the next oldest in this group without going to my old man.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with Walker Buehler, pitcher for the Dodgers. This is one of my NL West picks. He's only been in the league since 2017, so he's only been here for about 4 years. No, he came up in 70, so 5 years. This is his 5th year. This guy is insane. At least this year, he's been insane. His career ERA is 2.87, and he's 35-11 overall for his career. But this year, he's 11-2 with a 2.16 ERA. That is nuts. And when people talk about pitchers, he's
leading baseball, by the way.
He's never brought up as like one of the best pitchers in baseball. Because, and I think this is the big problem, he's now on a team with Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Bauer. Now he's got Cole Hamels fucking there.
Yeah.
What are the like? So when you talk about the pitchers that he's in a stable with, like they get all the attention, even though he's actually where the Dodgers' future pitching is.
Oh yeah, I mean all those guys are older.
Oh yeah,
except I guess Bauer, but who knows what's gonna happen with him?
Bauer's done in LA.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if they're gonna cut him or if they're gonna be able to void his contract, but he's done in LA.
Yeah. I agree with that.
The players have already come out and said we don't want him back. So it doesn't matter whether what he did is good, like if he can prove his side or not, like he's done in LA. Now, where he goes and how he gets wherever he's going next is a bit of a mystery.
I mean, no one's going to touch him until everything's figured out. Everything.
Okay, so we're gonna go off topic here for just a second. As a Giants fan, I am praying that everything he says is true. Everything was consensual, and he's just fucking weird and a freak.
I mean, he is a really weird guy.
Well, yeah, we knew that already. That's kind of why we both liked him. I would venture to guess. That's why I liked him. He's just different.
Yeah.
But Scrump's like, here we go, because I just literally told him about this yesterday. But I want him to get cut by the Dodgers because I think that's inevitable at this point, which means the Dodgers will have to eat at least part of his contract. And I want the Giants to pick him up because the Giants, one, need starting pitching. And two, oh my God, how good would it be to have him pitching against the Dodgers in the first round of the playoffs? Because he'd be like, give me the ball every single day. Fuck these guys. Yeah. He's that kind of person. Now, could he do it? No, but like he's that kind of person. He holds grudges.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I would love for the Giants to pick him up. I don't think they will. Because
that dude was in Cleveland for like 6 years, and he's still, at the end of his time in Cleveland, he still talked about how Arizona got rid of him and stuff. The dude holds grudges.
I want that to happen. In a perfect world, that would happen. But at the same time, I know it'll never happen because, one, the Giants just won't do that. It's a very liberal city. They don't want that kind of juju mixed in. Like, when stuff like that happens, they steer away from players. It just kind of is what it is. And on top of that, I don't think they'd want that to mess up the chemistry they have going on right now. And to be honest, the best team in baseball can't really argue with what they're doing. So
fair.
I'm just worried when the postseason comes.
Yeah.
Okay. Tangent done.
Okay.
But Walker Buehler, I think, is one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball.
I agree. And yeah, I think it's like you said, just overshadowed on that team with guys who are historically great. But speaking of overshadowed, my third guy, has been in the league 9 years and is constantly overshadowed because he is a young shortstop, and there are hundreds of those. And that is Xander Bogaerts of the Boston Red Sox.
Ooh, interesting.
Like, when you have guys like Lindor, Fernando Tatis, Javi Baez, off the top of my head, even Trevor Story, I feel like gets more
that one. See,
news than him.
I would disagree with that one. I would think Trevor Story, as far as the shortstop position, I think Trevor Story is a little more underrated than Bogaerts.
Okay, I mean, fair. You could,
but when
Trevor
you have
Story, I think is more recently gotten more news just because of the trade deadline and how everyone expected him to get traded. But anyway, career 291 batting average over 9 years. Averages 20 home runs, 90 RBIs. He has 3 Silver Sluggers to his name at shortstop, which again, not easy to do in what the modern day shortstop position looks like. Solid fielder. He's only made 85 errors in 9 years.
85.
And
that's about what? A little less than 10 a year?
Less than 10 a year. That's out of almost 4,000 opportunities.
Damn, that's fucking solid.
Yeah. And again, like, people talk about Xander Bogaerts, like, people know who he is, but nobody compares him with guys like Lindor and stuff. And honestly,
I would agree.
This year, Lindor is terrible, but
I would agree that those comparisons I don't hear happen very much. But I would also pull back a little bit because I don't know. I feel like I hear him talked about a lot. even on the West Coast, I hear him talked about a lot.
I mean, he's really good. Don't get me wrong, and like, but people don't talk about him with guys like Lindor and Tatis, and I don't know why I'm blanking on. There's like so many young shortstops in baseball, and I can't think of any of them.
So since when did shortstop become like the hot position?
When guys started hitting 35 home runs at shortstop.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Like shortstop historically has never been like a hot position where like you talk about like the best players in baseball.
I would argue that started with Jeter. Jeter was like the first like celebrity shortstop. Like
that's actually very fair.
And then since Jeter, there's been guys like even between Jeter and Lindor, like there were guys that were bigger names.
That's actually a good point. That's a good point.
But yeah, so that is my number 3. And again, like you said, like he's not, not talked about at all, but he's not talked about as highly as some of the other guys.
That's fair. I actually would say that's fair. Like I said, the only real disagreement I think I have there is I think Trevor Story is more underrated than he is.
Yeah, but he's significantly better than Trevor Story.
Yeah, I was just about to say, but I think he's much better than Trevor Story is overall.
I mean, if you look really quick, just pulling it up, Trevor Story, that's 20 points lower. He hits more home runs, but not really many more. Only like 7 or 8 more RBIs on average.
When you got to think Story's playing in Colorado, where the ball flies.
I mean, he hits like 15 more home runs on average than Bogarts.
Okay, yeah.
So like
that's a good amount.
That's a significant.
I was gonna say that's not just like a few extra for.
Right. If there was like 5 to 10, maybe I would be like, okay, yeah, but no, I mean,
because I almost put Story on my list. Almost.
I think Trevor Story's good. I just don't think he's as good.
But that's a good one. I actually didn't even think about Bogarts. Like I said, my list is a bunch of old guys that I think most people just either disregard or think are past their prime.
Also, again, we say young. Like Xander Bogaerts, Jose Ramirez, like they've been in the league 9 years. Like they're still young. They're like 31.
I'm gonna call that young because I'm 33.
Actually, I take it back. Xander Bogaerts only 28. He came up when he was 20.
Okay.
But
I was gonna say I'm 33. I'm gonna still call that young so I can feel better about myself.
Fair.
All right. So my next guy is someone who was. Which most people, and even myself included, considered him overrated at one point in his career. Former MVP, former Rookie of the Year, former Home Run Derby champ, Bryce Harper.
Interesting.
So, So this year, I think Bryce Harper is potentially, I mean, his power isn't quite there. As far as like home runs go, he's only at 18 for the year, but he's hitting 305. He scored 63 runs. He had a streak where if people could just fucking get on base, he wouldn't have had. He had 15 straight home runs. 15 straight where it was a solo shot because no one got on base in front of him.
Yeah.
That's insane to me. But I think he's quite like I said, at one point in his career, I think he was way overrated. But I think right now people just aren't talking about him. I don't think people necessarily look at him like he's a trash player, but I think he gets overshadowed by a lot of the young guys that are in the league. He's been in the league for 9 years? I think he's going on like 9 or 10.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, 2012 was his first year. We're in 2021, so that's 9 years.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit underrated. I think he's quietly putting together a potential MVP run.
This year?
This year. I think if he can get a few more home runs and get a few... The only part that I think is hurting him is his RBIs. He's really doesn't have a lot of RBIs, but that's because people aren't getting on fucking base. In my opinion. But I think he's one of the more underrated players right now. Like, how often do you hear people talk about Bryce Harper in the Phillies?
I mean, fair. You're not wrong. This year, I would say he's underrated. The last 5 years, I would say he is very overrated.
Well, that's what I mean. At one point in his career, I honestly think basically from the time he came up till he got traded, he was overrated.
Pretty much.
Outside of like the 2015 year where he hit 42 home runs and literally just went ham, I think he's been overrated.
Yeah.
But this year, I think he's just kind of squeaking by. Like, he's hitting for average. He's got enough pop to make it worth it. I think if he ends up with 20 to 30 home runs, like 25 to 30 home runs, I think he maybe quietly gets himself into the MVP race.
Yeah, I'd have to look at, I don't know who's like a valid MVP.
Yeah, I haven't looked at all the stats to see like what the race is actually kind of like looking at right now. Usually you don't get a lot of those stats until, the last couple weeks, month of the season.
Right.
But it would not surprise me if he was a top 5 MVP voting this year with the way he's played, but no one's talking about him.
Yeah.
So Bryce Harper is another one of my underrated.
That's fair. Okay. My fourth one is a guy that I actually talked about like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I actually said he was underrated then. And that is Salvador Perez, catcher for the Kansas City Royals. Now, this year he was in the home run derby and he was an all-star, but usually not very talked about. The dude has been in the league for 10 years. He's one of the best defensive catchers in the history of baseball. In 10 seasons, he's only made 38 errors.
Wait. You said in 10 years he's only made 32 errors?
38, but yes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, that like legit, that's insane.
He's led the league in caught stealing 4 years out of the 10. So 40% of the time, he is the best catcher in baseball. He's a 5-time Gold Glove winner. And as a hitter, he bats .280, averages 90 RBIs and 27 homers.
Damn, that's another...
As a catcher.
That's another good one. You said you thought I would disagree with a lot of these before we started. I don't know. I'm actually kind of with you on that.
The reason I'd argue he isn't underrated, or like people wouldn't think of him as underrated, is he's a 7-time All-Star. He's won a World Series. He was the World Series MVP. He has 5 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Sluggers. So like he has the award. Like he's without a doubt a Hall of Famer for probably first ballot. But I just feel like he doesn't get any recognition when people talk about like top tier catchers. Even us, we talked 2 weeks ago, last week. We were like, are there any good hitting catchers? And like neither of us even thought of him.
That's actually a very good point.
I called him underrated 2 weeks ago, and last week I couldn't even think of him.
That tells you how underrated he is. We talked about him and then literally forgot about him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's my fourth guy. And again, the only thing that I don't like about him, besides the fact that he's on an Indians rival team, is that he's one of the catchers who does the leg like sticking straight out to the side thing.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy, but it works for him.
Hey, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that, but just fundamentally. But hey, if it works for you, it works for you.
Right.
All right. So my next guy, I'm just literally going up in age. So this guy is a 2007 to now, so 14-year veteran. 14-year. He was a former MVP, 6-time All-Star, and a Gold Glove. winner.
Okay.
Joey Votto.
Okay. I actually almost put him on my list.
So we've talked about him the last couple weeks because he was on like a monster tear like the last week. And
he actually continued that this week, by the way. I meant to put him in the hot list. Yeah. He's the first Reds player in history to homer in 10 straight games.
Was it 10 straight?
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And I think a couple of those were multi-homer games.
There was 2 multi-homer for sure.
Yeah. So, anyway.
But yeah, I think Joey Votto is underrated. Now, I think at one point he was very appropriately rated as one of the better players in the league for a very long time. But I think people just kind of forgot who Joey Votto was. And this year he has been just going ham. He's hitting, I mean, his batting average is way down compared to his career average. He's hitting 273 this year. His career is 303. But his career for 14 years is over 300.
Yeah.
He's at 22 home runs this year, and he's got 64 RBIs. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. He's probably going to end with, 80 RBIs. I would bet 25-ish, 28 home runs.
Yeah. The Reds are really good this year. They started off really good.
There's actually a couple Reds I was thinking about putting on here. Who's the other Red?
I'm assuming it's going to be the same guy I'm thinking of, which is Nick Castellanos. I almost put him on my list too.
He was another one that I was thinking about putting in this spot, but I think Joey Votto deserves it more because I think people talk about him less than Castellanos.
Joey Votto is a better hitter and has been doing it way longer.
Yes. And I personally, I think he's just not talked about. Like, he's got all the accolades. Like I said, he's a former MVP. He's a Gold Glove winner. He's a 6-time All-Star. But people, I think, at this point in his career just kind of wrote him off as, like, he's the old man on the team.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at the last few years, they've been way down.
That's true. That's very true.
So I think maybe people were like, hey, he's kind of getting older. Like, maybe he's fallen off. And, yeah, he's having a solid year. Like you said, batting average is down,
But outside of that, I think he's on pace for most of his other stats. Like, I think he averages about 25 to 30 home runs. Yeah, give or take. And he's at like 22 already. I just think he's one of those guys that's underrated. He's at a 1.6 WAR, which is a little lower than I like, considering his career WAR is 62.
Yeah, that's insane.
But it's nuts. I mean, I'm glad that he's having kind of like a resurgence this year, but I would put him as like one of those guys that I think is a little underrated right now. Now, do I think he's going to continue this for like another couple years? No, but I think this year people aren't giving him necessarily the love maybe he deserves.
That's fair. All right. So this is going to be my last underrated player. Another guy who actually played for the Royals for most of his career. He split about half his time in Kansas City and Milwaukee. And that is Lorenzo Kane.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Now, Lorenzo Kane is pretty good offensively. He has a career, 12 seasons in the league, first of all. Career batting average, 287. He's a center fielder. He's a speed guy, so like not a big power guy. Averages 12 homers, 63 RBIs. But he averages almost 30 stolen bases. And defensively, he is I don't know if he still is, but he used to be one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. Like, you can go look up like 10-minute highlight reels of him robbing home runs. But he was one of the best at it.
Okay, but we talked about this a couple weeks ago. No. Actually robbing home runs or catching balls that probably would have hit the top of the fence.
No,
not actually.
I agree. He's done both. And he has some where he's like full extension with the wall under his armpit reaching over. Like he's robbed home runs.
Okay.
Okay. Here's one for you. remember Lorenzo Kane or Salvador Perez, 38 errors in 10 seasons?
Yes.
Lorenzo Kane, as an outfielder, not a catcher where you don't get a lot of balls, as an outfielder, 39 errors, so one more, but in 2 more seasons, 39 errors in 12 years.
Okay, so of all, that doesn't actually, to be honest, Salvador Perez is more impressive to me.
You think?
So
as catchers rarely get charged with errors.
So as an outfielder, I feel like it's much easier to field the ball than a catcher.
You get throwing errors in the outfield.
Very rarely do I see throwing errors attributed to outfielders. Very rarely. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just like I said. Maybe that's just my purview and like what I see.
You might be right.
But throwing errors by themselves are very rare, and it's not common you see like outfielders just like get glove on a ball and just drop it or something like that. You know what I mean?
That's fair. You're not wrong. But still, 39 errors in 3,000 chances.
I mean, that's still pretty impressive. Like I'm not trying to diminish the stat. I'm just saying, as an outfielder, if you're saying Salvador Perez to him, I would actually say it's more impressive.
You're not wrong.
For the
I
catcher.
don't disagree with you. But I mean, you can literally look up like 10-minute videos of just defensive plays of Lorenzo Kane.
Okay.
And on top of that, he's batting almost 290 in 12 seasons.
Small tangent, but is there anything better in baseball to watch like highlights of than guys in the outfield just absolutely murdering people trying to run on the bases? Like I'm talking like just gunning fucking people down.
It's one of my favorite things.
Like,
I literally watched videos of oh god, what's his name? Played for the Dodgers, the Reds,
Puig?
the Indians. Yes.
Yeah. Dude, just a cannon on that guy's.
I will watch nothing but Yasiel Puig videos of him like picking up the ball in the right field corner and throwing a line drive in the air to third base to gun somebody out. Like it's ridiculous.
There's almost nothing, in my opinion, more satisfying to watch, like highlights of just guys gunning people down.
It's great. I didn't look up that stat, but okay, it's hard to tell. I don't know what's good. I was gonna look up outfield assists for him. He has almost 60 outfield assists. I don't know if that's good in 12 years or not. I feel like you don't get a ton.
I would say that's probably pretty good.
That's like 5 or 6 a year. He had a year where he got 11. I don't know. He's more of a speed. Like, I don't know how good his arm is, but like, he can make plays not a lot of people can make, and he's a good contact hitter.
I absolutely, like I said, I absolutely love watching competent outfield play.
Right.
It sounds dumb, but like it's really fun to watch people just get gunned when they think they've got it and they just are out by like 5 steps.
Right. But yeah, so that's my underrated list.
All right. Speaking of outfielders, we're gonna stick in that outfield vein, and we're gonna go with my oldest man's. This man's has been in the league since 2005, 16 years. He actually just got traded, and we talked about him not that long ago. Nelson Cruz.
Okay, totally fair.
This guy
there was a moment where I considered putting him on my overrated, and then I looked at his stats and I'm like, nope.
No. This man is having borderline a career year. 16 years in. I mean, his home runs are way down because he was a monster power hitter when he was younger.
Yeah. But I mean, you say they're down. They're still really good.
Yeah, well, yeah, I say he's down because he's used to hitting like 40 to 50 home runs a year. He's at 21 home runs, which is, I would say, probably the top 20% of all of baseball right now.
Yeah.
Maybe top half at least. Because I feel like a lot of people have like 20 home runs.
He's up there.
But his batting average is 281 this year. His career average is 278. So he's hitting better than he's ever for average. this man, I think, is completely underrated this year. He got traded. He's been having a hell of a fucking year.
I was very excited when I saw him get traded out of Minnesota because he destroys the Indians.
But
like every time.
But this guy, I mean, just to think, like, to be able to put up those numbers in your 16th year is insane. He's what? He's a 281 batting average, 21 home runs. He's got 53 RBIs, which, from what I've been seeing, is kind of middle of the pack. Maybe a little
this year.
Yeah, this year is a little better than middle.
You were talking about average, and I'm like, he has way more than 21 home run average.
No, his like average, I think, is somewhere in like the 30s. Is like 32. 39. Yeah, his average is 32.
Wait.
Right? Oh no, sorry.
39.
I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
I was looking at his stolen base average. My bad.
Yeah, that's going to be a little lower.
Well, yeah, this year he's only got 3, but he averages 32.
No.
You're
looking at something else.
Oh, no, what am I looking at? Caught stealing is what I was looking at. That makes a lot more sense.
Wait. Maybe total. Yeah, okay. His total for his career caught stealing is 32.
Really? I thought that said average. I thought it said average. That was my bad. That's me just
I was like, he doesn't steal bases. There's no way he gets caught 32 times a year.
Well, I mean, he's better than 50% stealing bases.
True.
79 for 32?
He was quicker when he was young and like back when he was in Texas.
But the old man rounds out my list for underrated. I just think he's having a good year, and I think at this point in his career, people just aren't really talking about him. They talked about him when he got traded, but he's also kind of fallen back into obscurity.
When he got traded, everyone was like, yeah, that's a really good pickup. But, yeah. All right, so that is our Bases and Brews top 10 most overrated players in baseball, I guess.
And ironically,
we
didn't have any single person that was the same.
But I don't think either of us really disagreed with any of the other person's 5 either. So
no. But I actually think that was a pretty good one. But yeah. I have a feeling we're going to disagree on the overrated, which is kind of why I wanted to do the overrated second.
Yeah, same.
All right, I'll start the overrated.
All right, sounds good.
And I'm going to start young again. I think we'll start young again. We won't, because I won't go with anything too controversial early. And I'm going to say second baseman for the LA Dodgers, Gavin Lux.
Okay.
I don't even. Yeah, see, you may not see him, but like around here, West Coast bias. Yeah, I'm sure this is part of the West Coast bias. He's only been in the league for like 3 years. He came up in 2019. He's a young player for the Dodgers. Everyone thinks he's going to be this fucking god of a player, a second baseman. I just don't see it. Everyone's all about him. Stat-wise, he's got nothing of note. He's hitting 227 this year.
That's bad.
His career is 221. He's only had 416 at-bats in his career. This is a very young player. Very young player. This may be me reaching a little bit, but around here, the Dodgers think he's going to be the next thing for their second baseman. I don't see it.
I mean, like, you're not wrong. Like, he doesn't have a lot of sample size, but the sample size he does have isn't even, like, showing promise.
But they love him. They literally love him.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never even heard of this person.
Trust me. If I didn't deal with the Dodgers on a regular basis, I probably wouldn't have either. But he's played pretty much all year for the Dodgers. He's played 82 games this year.
That's crazy on a team like the Dodgers that somebody like this is your starting everyday second baseman.
So I think this kid's overrated. I don't know. Maybe I'm proved wrong. Maybe, he has a breakout season and his career takes off from there. Maybe they see something that stat-wise I haven't seen yet. But, like, in 2020, he played... Granted, other than this year, he hasn't played more than 25 games. In 2019, before the pandemic, he only played 23. And during the pandemic last year, he played 19 of the 60 games. So he only played like a third of the games last year.
Yeah.
This year, he's played pretty much all of them, most of them. He was on the World...
Probably around 100 games now, I think.
Yeah, so he's maybe a little short, but he was on the World Series team last year.
Yeah.
Everybody's all about him. I just don't think he's I don't think he's going to be that good. I
mean, again, I don't know anything about this person, but looking at their stats, it does not look good.
Yeah, not solid.
Okay. Fair enough. So that one's more overrated by the team than by
I would say by the team, because
then?
when people talk about the Dodgers, he's actually talked about, at least for around here.
Yeah.
Which is why I added him. Although, to be honest, my overrated was a little more difficult to put together.
Fair. Okay. I'll go young then too for my first one. So this one is somebody that everybody who watched our All-Star game coverage will know. And that is Pete Alonso.
Ooh. Why? Okay. Explain.
Okay. He has a ton of recognition for being the 2-time home run derby champ.
One time.
Right.
1-time home run derby champ.
Okay. He won it. I mean, whether or not he should have, he did win.
1-time home run champ. But yeah, go.
That's why he has recognition. The dude, again, very small sample size, same as Gavin Lux. But in 3 full seasons, well, if you count last year as a full season, 3 full seasons with the Mets, he's batting .250. He has his rookie year, he had 53 home runs. This year he's on pace for about 30.
Is he that low this year on pace? I thought he was already at like 25, 30.
He's at 24. I mean, we're more than 2/3 of the way through the year now.
There's still like 50 games left.
Okay, so maybe he hits 32?
I guarantee you he hits 35.
Okay, that's still 18 less than the year that he's well known
okay, but
for.
to be honest, he hit 51?
53.
53. That like is borderline all-time like great
Fair.
Home run
Don't
record.
disagree.
Like you can't expect that every year. If you got a guy hitting 40 home runs a year,
okay,
like 30 to 40, like that's super solid.
Okay, but here's another stat for you. He has 24 home runs. He only has 13 doubles, no triples. He has 11 more home runs than he does any other extra base hit combined. I mean, he can't do anything except hit home runs.
What's his average at right now?
250.
What's his RBIs at?
62. So he's on pace for probably a little less than 100.
I'm okay with it. In modern standards, I actually think he's rated kind of even. I see this is we're already getting into the disagreement.
I disagree though, because I think people think that he's like one of the best hitters in baseball, and he's just not.
See, I don't think people see him as that. Maybe that's just, I don't know. I think people think he's good, but like outside of the home run derby and All-Star Weekend, I don't hear a ton of people talking about Pete Alonso.
Really? See, I hear a lot about him. Like when Lindor got traded to New York, that was like the big team up was Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor together. Like people were like saying that as like a team up, and it's like, I mean, it's not that good.
I don't know. For me, I don't hear that like talk about him. See, this is why I love our different takes, because we live on different parts of the country, so we hear different parts of like local radio and what's actually
froze for a second there, but
we're back. We're okay.
We're good now. Yeah.
But being that we live decent enough far away, we hear different things on the radios, which is what I love when we do lists like this. Because whenever I hear people talk about him, I don't hear people talk about like how he's like the greatest hitter that could be. I just hear that like he's a solid.
I mean, I'm not saying they're saying like he's one of the best hitters ever, but like people talk about him like he's a really good hitter, and it's like, no, all you can do is hit a home run. Well, and he can crush the ball.
Okay.
But so can Vlad Jr., but Vlad Jr. is batting .330.
I wanted to put him on this list somewhere, not overrated, but just on my list somewhere, but I'm like, he's Vlad Guerrero. Like everyone.
Right. Everybody's talking about him. He's not underrated.
He's not underrated, but he's not overrated either.
Right. No. Everybody's talking about him. They know what he's doing right now.
But he's another person, and I'm just going to say it because we have the ability to watch Vlad Guerrero.
Yes. If you get the chance. The Indians played the Blue Jays this week, and like I at least had it on in the background every at bat.
I watched him hit a home run, and it was so majestic. And
he crushed the ball against the Indians.
Oh yeah, I know. I watched those games. It was on MLB Network. It was fucking great. Yeah. I love it. I love watching that kid play. I called it at the beginning of the year.
2 out of 3 in that series, by the way.
Yeah. Good for the Indians. Yeah, I ain't even gonna hate. Good for the Indians. They need to win some games.
They're so minor league heavier. Right
I don't want it to be against that particular team.
Same.
But I'm okay with the Indians winning.
I was torn when the Indians were winning because I was like, we're not making the playoffs, but like, it's nice to see the Indians win. I'm never gonna root against them. But anyway.
Well, dude, I don't know. Sorry. Fun fact: Toronto is like 9-1 since actually starting back in Toronto.
Really?
Or 6-1 or 5-1, something like that. 6-1 since playing in Toronto.
Yeah.
Because they started on the 30th was their first game back at home.
Yep.
And they've only lost like one game since playing back in Toronto. Nice. Fucking good for them.
Maybe they'll come back and get the wild card.
I hope so, because I want them to make the playoff. I don't want to have to make a whole bunch of clips of like, bruh, for at the end of the year with how bad we were off.
Yeah. We weren't alone, at least. Anyway.
That's another good one.
All right.
All right.
You are up.
So my next one, since we've talked about the Mets, we're going to stick on the Mets. And we're going to talk about a player that they just acquired at the All-Star break in Javier Baez. You have him on your list? No, we agree on one. I think Javier Baez is one of the most overrated players in baseball for the last 10 years, almost.
100%.
Well, maybe not 10 years, like 5 years.
But he's been in the league 8 years.
Has it been? 2014 to now would be 7 years.
This is the 8th season.
Okay. Well, yeah, 2014 included, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's super overrated. His career stats read 262 batting average, which is literally borderline average at best, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has 142 career home runs. This year, he's got some pop. This year,
yeah, he's got 24.
He's on pace to maybe get close to his all-time high for home runs. But his average this year is terrible. It's 242.
Yeah.
Like, that's terrible.
Yeah, like, I get why people like Javi Baez because he's fun as hell to watch. And he does some crazy shit that most players are not going to be able to pull off. Like, did you see his slide this week?
That slide was nuts. But at the same time, he does things, though.
Oh, he does things that are dumb, too.
Well, like, he talks shit to, like, pitchers and shit. Like, I don't know if you saw some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, just shut the fuck up. Like, if you want to celebrate, cool. But, like, you ain't gonna fucking, like, yell at the pitcher or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care if you've got history. Take that shit off the feet. Like,
yeah.
Like, to me, I don't mind celebrating. But at the same time, like, you got to show some respect.
Yeah.
And I feel like he crosses that line quite often.
Right. It's one thing to celebrate your achievements. It's another thing to like put down other people for like something they do wrong.
That's
like,
a great way of wording it.
Yeah. I heard someone else say it like that when it was like same. I think it, I'm going to bring it up again, but I honestly am pretty sure it was Madison Bumgarner that they were talking about when they said it. And it was like, the dude's just celebrating because he launched a home run off you, and you're like screaming at him because you did something bad. And it's like, don't take that shit out on other people, or like, yeah, but whatever.
But yeah, Javi Baez is a player that I don't think that he's terrible. Like, I think he's good. I just think people consider him like
People put shortstops.
Well, yeah, people put him in the conversation with Fernando Tatis and these guys, and I don't think he belongs there.
No,
I think guys like Trevor Story, who were you talking about earlier? That we
Xander Bogaerts.
Xander Bogaerts. I think those guys deserve to be there much more than like Javi Baez does.
Totally agree with that.
Which is why I put him on my list.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want me to go because I'm out one now, or do you want to just do a second one?
Okay, I'll just do a second one since we covered that one.
Yeah.
So my next one is another trade piece that got traded. This one. He's been in the league since 2014, so we're looking at like 8 years, 7-8 years, and that is Jock Peterson.
Yeah. Okay.
This dude's batting average 250. Home runs, 14. RBIs, 52, which is on the low end. But people, when he got traded to the Braves, people were like, oh my God, that's such an insane trade. Like, that was a good deal for the Braves. And I'm like, I think he's okay. He's not that great, though.
He had his rookie year, he was pretty good. He at least hit a bunch of home runs.
I mean, technically,
like, he's never had a good season.
His rookie
batting
year
average,
wasn't that great.
His best batting average season is 250.
That's what I'm saying. Like, everyone talks about Jock Peterson like he's fantastic. He's not, though.
Side note, to give him a little credit, since being traded to Atlanta, he's batting 324.
I don't care. You got to look
at
almost
20. It's in 19 games.
But think about
that.
No,
I totally agree with you on this.
But think about how bad he was when he got traded. If he's been hitting that well over 19 games, and his average right now is at 250.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the only reason I actually thought about putting him on my list, the only reason I didn't is because I feel like people have kind of fallen off on him. Like, I feel like the general public has kind of like realized that he's not that good. And I think LA realized that and was like, yeah, you're good. You can go. We're not going to even try to re-sign you.
Yeah. When the Dodgers didn't re-sign him, I mean, I was kind of like, yeah, you're okay. You're okay.
Right. And then, the other obvious way to realize that is that Chicago got rid of you like in 2 months after giving you like a.
They were like, okay, we're not winning. Get the fuck out.
Yeah,
go.
You're not as good as we thought you were. We wasted a lot of money on you.
Bye. We don't like you. You suck. Peace. But yeah, so Jock Peterson would be my next guy on my list.
Like I said, I almost put him on mine, but I left him off just because I feel like people don't think of him that way anymore. But
maybe not so much at the moment, but I think over the last few years that has definitely been the case. And
when he was with LA, just because the team was winning and he was a starter, I feel like everyone was like, yeah, he's starting on the best team in baseball. Like, he's got to be good.
I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So I will go on to what is now my third guy. And this is somebody out in, he's in Cincinnati now. Ooh. Spent a lot of his years in Kansas City and then to Milwaukee and now Cincinnati, and that is Mike Mustackas.
Interesting.
Mike Mustackas has been in MVP voting. He's a 3-time All-Star. He won a World Series with the Royals.
How long has he been playing? Because I was going to say, I didn't even realize Mike Mustackas was actually still even playing.
He's only been in the league 11 years. He's only 32.
I mean, only 11 years. That's
well, I mean,
careers.
that's yeah. If you're decent, you're gonna play, and you want to, you're gonna play 11 years.
Well, I say only like when your player's not very good. I figure like they usually don't make it past like year 6, 7.
But yeah, so Mike Mustackas, 11 years, 3-time All-Star. Career batting average 251.
I don't.
Averages 26 homers and 80 RBIs.
Those
80 RBIs is terrible. This dude was a cleanup hitter his entire time he was in Kansas City.
That is not good. I thought his numbers were better, to be honest.
He had 1 year where he had 95 RBIs. His career high outside that is 85.
Ooh, that's tough.
See, I agree with you. I always thought he was significantly better.
Yeah. Like that name to me, like
Right.
I would assume he was like 280 hitter, 270 at least
Same.
hitter.
Yeah, above average.
Yeah. Not necessarily like otherworldly, but definitely like a good above average player.
Oh, and he got paid like he was an above average hitter. Because he's making $15 million this year.
Ooh.
$18 million the next 2 years, and then $20 million in 2024.
Ooh. All right, I got to hit the bathroom real quick. Go ahead and keep talking. I'll be back in a second.
But yeah, so he finished in MVP voting in 2015 when he batted 284, which is by far his best year. His best year outside that is 2018 when he batted 256. Like, he's only had 1 year where he batted better than 256. That's so terrible. Never been a base stealer. I'll give him this. He does not strike out much. He's almost always under 100 strikeouts, which in today's league is very good. Especially for a guy that's a power hitter, averaging 26 homers. I guess power hitter me, but he does stay healthy. Almost, he's had like 2 years where he had some injuries, but for the most part, pretty healthy. And yeah, just overrated. Overrated. I think no. I don't know why I thought he won Gold Gloves. Maybe I'm thinking Eric Hosmer. But yeah, a lot of errors, almost 20 errors. 1 year, almost always over 10. But yeah, not great. Not a good amount of, or a good player. All right, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh shit, that blows me away a little bit, to be honest. Though.
Yeah,
I would have thought Mike Mustackas was better.
I just looked up the stat while you were gone because I was curious. So he batted 284 in 2015. His next best batting average is 256.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's his second best year in 11 years.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But yeah, so that is my number 3 guy.
All right, so on to number 4. This one's gonna be a fun one. This is a Yankee.
Oh God, are we gonna have more?
A former MVP, a 4-time All-Star, a home run derby champ, a 2-time Silver Slugger,
We have another matching one.
He plays the right field. Oh, we do. No, Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge plays right field now. He's just a DH, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. I was looking at that the other day.
But yeah. Did you have another? Damn it! I was gonna save that one for my last one.
So I'm saving my last one because it hurts my heart to have to say it.
Okay.
So I'm saving my last one for that.
All right.
But Giancarlo Stanton, did you have him on your list? Really?
Yeah. He was gonna be my last one. He was gonna be my like.
Right. So I was torn between him and oh god, what's their pitcher? Oh dude, he's like
Garrett Cole?
Yes, Garrett Cole.
Okay.
I just don't think he's as good as people say he is. Like I don't think that
you look at his stats, he's real good.
Yeah, well, how are his stats after all the sticky stuff? After he bitched about all the sticky stuff.
I can't. I don't.
Okay.
Capacity to go look that up.
But anyway, Giancarlo Stanton. This guy, I think he's been overrated literally from the beginning.
Same. When he got the contract in New York, I was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. In 2017, he went ham and hit a shit ton of home runs. He had 59 home runs, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But, like, the dude career batting average is 267. Like, this guy is not that great of a hitter.
No. I actually have, and also, he's not a good fielder. He is known as a hitter. Like, they only had him in the outfield because they had to. Because he used to play for Miami or Florida or whatever. But yeah, when he was Mike Stanton.
I think this is one of the most overrated players in the last decade.
Agreed.
I think people have talked about him like he was like this God's gift to fucking hitting and everything.
It was the same thing as what I said with Pete Alonso. Like, you agreed with that pick, but like, he hits the ball hard and very far, and that excites people, and people think he's way better than he is because of that. And like, it's just...
I haven't looked at all the advanced stuff for Pete Alonso, so I don't know if I 100% agree with Pete Alonso.
Right. No. I'm not saying comparing the two. Yeah, I'm saying that's why people think Giancarlo Stanton's so good.
But with Stanton, I think since literally the time he's been in the league, I think he's one of the most overrated players.
Well, all right. So I wrote down here. So as a guy who is always the cleanup hitter, is supposed to be your big home run, big RBI guy, he only has the 1 year over 40 home runs. Like, that's what he's known for, is hitting home runs. He only has 1 year where he's hit over 40.
He's hit 38 and 37, though.
Okay.
And he's hit 37 twice.
He only has 5 of his 12 seasons over 30 home runs.
Okay, that's a way more fair assessment.
Less than half the time, he's not even hitting 30 home runs. He's injury prone. Like you said, terrible batting average. He only has 3 seasons where he has over 100 RBIs in 12 years.
So my thing was the injury prone. Like he always like whenever I think of Giancarlo Stanton, I think of hurt. It's kind of the same thing I think about Judge. Judge almost make this spot for me.
I actually agree with you. I try not to judge guys on injury. Like Giancarlo Stanton's numbers are bad enough that I didn't have to go to injuries to like, I mentioned it just because it's a factor, but like, if you just look at his numbers, they're not as good as you would expect them to be.
No, not
at all. A guy
who's
supposed to be your power hitting RBI machine.
Yeah, like your guy, like that's the guy that you want up when shit hits the fan.
Right.
But no.
And he is making, hang on, let me pull it up.
I don't even want to know what his contract is.
Okay, first of all, he's under contract until 2028.
Well, yeah, he signed like a 10-year deal or whatever, or something like that.
He is... Okay, he's only 31. I actually thought he was significantly older.
No, he's not that old.
Maybe it's the injuries. I don't know what it is. I thought he was like 36. Anyway, He's making $29 million this year. He's making $29 million next year, and then it goes up to $32 million from 2023 to 2026. And then it goes down to $25 million, but still, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for some reason, in 2026 through 2028, the Miami Marlins are paying $10 million out of his salary.
That is probably some random ass deal they had.
I don't think he was traded, was he? I thought he just signed with the Yankees.
I think it was a sign and trade for Miami. Okay. Kind of like what they do in basketball, where they trade a guy on his like last year with 2 years left, in the idea that they're gonna go ahead and re-sign.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, totally in agreement. He was going to be my number one most overrated player.
So Aaron Judge would have been the guy that I put in here, and the difference is Giancarlo Stanton's stats just aren't very good.
Right.
Whereas Aaron Judge's stats when he plays are fucking good. It's just not playing. Yeah, and that's why I put Stanton instead of Judge, because I didn't want to necessarily penalize a guy for being hurt. Although at some point, that does have to come into effect.
I mean, Aaron Judge is only like 24 or something. Like,
he came into the league in 2016, so he's only been in the league for like 5-6 years.
Okay, so he's probably like 26 now.
He's 29 actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was one of those guys who came in super young.
No, he came up. How old was he when he came up? He was 24 when he came up.
Yeah.
So he's not young, but like he's been injury prone, and that. Yeah. But you said, I didn't want to ding somebody for being hurt, which is why he didn't make it. But if we count injuries, he'd probably be on this list too for me.
Same.
Because like his potential is otherworldly if he's healthy, but he just can't fucking stay healthy.
Right, not at all. He's one of those guys who he's gonna miss a quarter of the season every year minimum.
Yeah.
But yeah, Giancarlo Stanton was my like first guy on overrated or underrated. He was the first name that I put on the list.
That's actually really funny.
Like, didn't even think about it, just threw him on there. All right. Well, I guess just go ahead.
No, go ahead, because the last one is literally gonna hurt to talk about. So go ahead with what your last guy is.
This is gonna be my last guy. Another AL Central guy playing for the Minnesota Twins, and that is Miguel Sanel. Okay. Miguel Sanel, thought of as one of the better power hitters in baseball.
That name doesn't even sound familiar.
Really? He averages almost 40 home runs a year, but he's batting .237 for his career. He is hurt a lot, which again, like, I don't hold that against him, but like when you're not playing, it hurts your team.
Yeah. The best trait is availability.
Right.
The best ability is availability.
Yeah. Because of his injuries, he only averages 54 RBIs a year.
So, who does he play for?
Not the Twins. He was like one of the top prospects in all of baseball coming up. He was this crazy power hitter, and like, don't get me wrong, when he's healthy, he can rush the ball. But he just can't stay healthy. And when he is healthy, even though he's mashing home runs, his batting average is so bad. His best year, he batted .269.
Ooh.
His worst year, for an entire season, he batted .199.
Bro, his batting average right now is .210?
Yeah.
Bro, that hurts my head.
17 homers and 42 RBIs, and he's missed like 20 games this year.
That hurts
So,
my
like,
head.
the dude's a power hitter. He can crush it, but like, he can't hit the ball anywhere but over the fence. He plays in Minnesota, which is not a home run friendly park.
Well, I just find this one funny because I've never even like this guy's never hit my radar.
Like, he's thought of as one of the top players in the AL Central. Especially last year when like the Twins were like one of the best teams in all of baseball. Like, it was him and Nelson Cruz were like the guys leading the charge.
Interesting.
I mean, if you look last year in 53 games, he hit 13 homers.
Which, if you average that out, that's like 40 homers.
Yeah. Like, but he can kill it, but
I don't know.
He's just...
This is part of our different leagues that we watch and the different areas we're in, because this is not a name that's even hit my radar.
That's interesting to me, because like, he is thought of in the AL, especially the AL Central, as like one of the better hitters in the league.
That's crazy, because literally I don't even think I've heard. I'm sure I've heard the name, but like, it's not enough for me to even recognize it outwardly.
Because like, I knew he wasn't a good average hitter, but when I looked up the stats, I was like, holy shit, he's so much worse than I thought he was.
Oh yeah. 237.
I thought he was like a 260 hitter or something.
Yeah. 237 career is terrible. Granted, he's only been in the league for 5 years. 7 years? Ooh, 7.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah, that...
Like, he's had...
That's not good.
3 years where he batted 210 or worse, including this year.
Bro, he's never batted over 270.
Right.
Ever. His best year was his rookie year.
He's never had over 80 RBIs.
His best year is 269.
That's what I'm saying.
69 giggity. But like, how are you fucking gonna like? Ooh, yeah.
Well, like, look. All right. So his rookie year, he was, he finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, and in 2017 he was an All-Star, batting 264.
The fact that he was ever an All-Star,
28 home runs and 77 RBIs. Like, that's not even good.
When did he get his All-Star?
2017. 264, 28 home runs, 77 RBIs.
I don't even understand how that's an All-Star.
And if you look at his strikeout numbers, they are bad.
173.
178. The year before that. Last year in 60 games, he struck out 90 times. 90.
There are players that have played this game that don't even have that for their career of 10 plus years.
90?
No, I'm talking 178.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I don't know if that's true. If you play 10 years, that's only 17 strikeouts a year and like 500 at bats, 600 at bats. That's not.
I'll go to my next guy, but I'm going to look this up. Because I almost guarantee that there's somebody that has less than that.
Okay. The best in the history of baseball was a dude named Willie Keeler. I don't know when he played. I don't know who he played for.
Okay,
but his at-bats per strikeout were 63 at-bats per strikeout. So basically that means if you got 600 at-bats, you're striking out 10 times a year. And that's the best in the history of baseball. And I almost would guarantee that was a long time ago.
Yeah, the one I saw for record-wise was, what is it? It's 114 times in his career, but that was like 1932. And in my opinion, anything that old doesn't count to me. Like those stats they're all cool and dandy, like they're fun to look at, but like you're talking about the amount of skill that is in the players, like even in the semi-modern era, even is way
and
different.
it was a totally different. Okay, so Willy Keeler. So that was over his whole career. By the way, he struck out once every 63 at bats, but he played in 1892 to 1910.
Yeah, so this guy right here, Joe Sawell, he, trying to look at it, he struck out.
He's second on the list.
Yeah. I think it looks like it was like 114 for his career.
Wow. Okay. So Willie Keeler, 63.17. Joe Sawell, 62.56. So like almost the same. The third place guy is 44.9, like almost 20 at bats less for strikeout. I'm looking for any name that I even know on this list, and I don't think I'm gonna find one.
Yeah, like it's a long time ago.
Like all these guys were like way before us.
But like, I don't know. That just seems nuts to me. Like 178 seems like a lot.
I mean, this Willie Keeler guy in 19 seasons struck out 136 times. So you're not wrong. There are guys who have done it, but it was a long time ago when baseball was very different.
I'm looking up the best hitter in all of baseball right now.
Ted Williams?
No, not in my opinion.
I'm sorry?
434 in 20 years of baseball.
Who is this?
Come on, guess who's the best hitter in baseball ever, all time?
It's not Barry Bonds.
No, it's not Barry Bonds.
Okay.
You're right.
All right.
It's
All
not
right.
who I would.
Okay.
So Barry Bonds, I consider the most feared hitter to ever play the game.
I agreed with you when you told me that.
I don't consider him the best hitter in all of baseball.
No. Okay.
So Tony Gwynn.
Okay. All right. Tony Gwynn was great.
Great. What it was? Yeah. Hold on. What's his batting average? Hold on. Let me look at this. Career batting average. Hold on. Where is it? Not at bats. Where's the batting average? His career over 20 years was 338. Get the fuck out of here. It's one of the best hitters baseball has ever seen. At the very least, he's top 3.
Yeah. I'm still looking for a name I know. I'm at number 100. There. Tony Gwynn, 92nd best at 21.4 at bats per strikeout.
Yeah.
So basically once every 5 or 6 games. That's still insane. That's an insane number.
That's insane to think. Well, Tony Gwynn, in my opinion, is the best hitter in baseball. At least one of the best hitters baseball has ever seen.
No question. I absolutely agree with that.
Like, I'm realistic. I'm a Giants homer, but like even I'm like not gonna say Barry Bonds is the best hitter baseball has ever seen. He's the best power hitter, and he's the best, like the most feared hitter that baseball has ever seen.
Of course.
But
if you're getting intentionally walked with the bases loaded, you can't even argue that anyone else is more
that's
feared.
not even why I consider him the greatest, like the most feared. Why I consider Barry Bonds the most feared is not because you get walked with the bases loaded. It's because you get walked in the first inning because they're afraid that you score any runs. Like he got intentionally walked several times in the very first inning of games because people were on base.
Yeah.
That to me is like, nope, fuck this. That's the pitcher going, fuck this, I'm out. Like, we're just gonna walk him, let him be on base.
Fun fact: this Willie Keeler guy, who has the best strikeout to at bat ratio, had a year in 1897, 129 games, 618 at bats. He batted .424.
What? hold on. What? 424 for the year?
Yeah.
That's insane.
0 home runs, 74 RBIs.
Wow.
239 hits in a season. That's fucking crazy. And the year after that, he followed it up. He batted 385. Apparently, this dude was really good.
So
anyway,
the modern era. We're just because since we're on this tangent, and I just was so curious.
You should cut this out. We'll make this a separate.
In the modern era, post 1900, the record for the highest batting average for a season is held by Nap Lajoie. It's Lajoie. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, that's how I'd pronounce it.
Lajoie, who hit 426 in 1901.
So, okay, this dude only won the batting title twice. The years he didn't win the batting title, that he had his best years, he batted 371, 377, 386, 379, 362. And didn't win the batting titles any of those years.
That man right now would be considered a god.
Right.
Like not even like
also,
an all-star or an MVP. Yeah. A god.
The greatest of all time. Yeah. He's in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway.
Tangent done. I love these tangents we get on. I'm not
stream marker on that one. Cut that out. That's a whole segment right there.
Yeah, hold on. I'm actually going to do that real quick. There should be a way for me to add stream marker. Add.
You gotta throw that one on the stream. It's probably synced to your channel.
It's okay. Worst case, I'll watch the whole episode to cut that out because that shit was funny. Okay, so on to your last guy that you think is overrated.
I did mine. Mine was Miguel Sanel. You're on yours.
Okay, so I'm on my last. I thought we still had one more to go. This guy hurts. This hurts to say. This really hurts to say. This is Madison Bumgarner.
Okay.
And I say this because I think people still consider Madison Bumgarner the same guy he was a couple years ago. When they hear the name, the average fan, like most people, hear that name and they think World Series championships. They think great, but realistically, this year had a really rough year. He's almost a negative WAR. Almost.
Yeah. We've mentioned him a couple times.
Yeah,
on, the cold list.
Well, he was on our cold list for a while. Then he threw a 7-inning no-hitter, right. And then he went kind of back to our cold list.
He was only on the hot list because of the no-hitter. Like the hot list is mostly reserved for people who do stuff that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily. If it was the hottest players in baseball, it would be the same players. It would be Ohtani, Vlad Jr., Mike Trout. It would be boring.
Yeah. So. But his WAR right now is 0.8, which is terrible. Like it's basically you could throw an average pitcher in there and they do almost just as good as Madison Bumgarner. His ERA this year is 4.5, almost 4.6. Terrible.
As bad as last year.
Well, and this is the thing is like with Arizona, like ever since he left the Giants, he hasn't been that great.
No.
And honestly, like if you look at his overall stats, I don't think he's really like if you were to compare career stats person to person, I don't even think he'd make it that high in like a top list.
I think his regular season stats have never been he had a couple good years, but they've never been incredible. He was always really well known for his postseason pitching, where he was one of the best postseason pitchers of all time.
He's arguably still the best postseason pitcher to ever play the game.
I mean, just to throw it out there, his postseason career ERA is 2.1.
Yeah. Well, and good. As a Giants fan, I got to watch him literally start a game and then 2 days later start another game to literally clinch a World Series. Yeah. Or no, sorry, not start, but come in relief and throw 3 innings in relief for a clinching win. I love Madison Bumgarner, which is why this one hurts so much. But I think people still look at him that way, and he's just not that guy anymore.
No, and I mean, also, he's never going to be in the postseason with Arizona.
Well,
so he never have the chance to be that guy in the postseason.
Well, ironically, you know why he left the Giants?
Because they weren't going to be in the postseason.
He didn't want to go through a rebuild.
I mean, yeah.
And
when he went to Arizona, they had Paul Goldschmidt. They had actually is Paul Goldschmidt still there and just hurt? I honestly don't know where Paul Goldschmidt.
I don't know
what happened to him.
But the Diamondbacks were better than the Giants when he left.
He's on the Cardinals. He's playing this year. He's played in 106 games. He's batting .269 with 18 homers or 17 homers and 60 RBIs.
So he's like a little above average.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's
no,
been
that's
with St. Louis for 3 years.
The Giants didn't want to pay him, and instead of coming back to the Giants, I mean, I bet you right now he's like, man, I should have just fucking went back to the Giants. I should have taken less money.
Yeah.
Right now he'd be pitching on a first team in the league, or first team in baseball.
Would they be the top team in baseball with Madison Bumgarner though?
I believe so. Even though he hasn't been good this year, I think they would have moved off of him because of the fact they were willing to let him go just period. I don't think they would have, the new regime, I don't think would have held on to him the same way. Like,
I mean, if he kept the same stats, I don't know if the Giants are the top team in baseball.
If he's pitching at like a 4.5 ERA, maybe, but you also have to remember the Giants right now, ironically, have the most home runs in all of baseball.
True.
They're not the highest scoring, but they're one of the best offensive teams in baseball.
Yeah. That's fair. I guess he's 6-6, but if you have the same ERA on the Giants, you're probably at least 8-4.
Probably somewhere in that neighborhood.
Way more respectable, but
and his ERA honestly is probably a little lower if on the Giants. Because you got to think like it's also environment.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's hard to pitch for a team isn't gonna help you out.
Yeah, and like they asked him the other day about it was something about a rebuild, something about being on a team that was bad, and you could see the frustration in his face. Like, look, I just got to go out and pitch. Like, there ain't fucking shit I can do to help this team win other than pitch. I feel like
of all the people who would get frustrated at his own team, I feel like he's the guy.
Well, especially coming off of like being a Giant where you won 3 World Series. Like coming off, I froze again. No, okay, we're unfroze. I saw you freeze and was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, same. I feel like he also would do way better on a veteran roster as opposed to a very young roster. Like, I feel like he just is a guy that would not get along with younger players.
Yeah, I think if he's on the Giants, I think his stats look better than they are right now.
I still don't think they're what they were, but maybe like a half a point less ERA.
Okay, so looking at his career stats, I'm a little shocked, to be honest.
As good as they are?
No, that they're as bad as they are. To be completely frank, like he's 126 and 102. Like that's not the greatest win-loss. I mean, you only win like a little over 50% of the time.
But if you look from like 2013 to 2016, he had a sub-3 ERA all those years.
Oh yeah.
And but even then, I mean, 15-9, 18-9, like they're good, but those aren't like insane win-loss record.
No.
And those were his best years, so I don't know. It just depends. Win-loss is probably the thing I care about least with a pitcher, because like your win-loss record has very little to do with you.
That's very true.
As opposed to your ERA and your WHIP and your things like that, Ks per 9, and like I look at those stats way more than I look at win-loss, because you could go out and throw 8 no-hit innings or eight scoreless innings, and you give up one home run in the 8th or 9th, and you get the loss because your team couldn't put up any runs. But,
You want to hear a prime example of that?
okay.
Matt Kane.
I know the name.
He's a pitcher for the Giants. I believe he threw a perfect game with the Giants. Played his whole career with the Giants, 2005 to 2017, 12 years or 13 years.
Okay. Yeah.
His ERA is 3.68, but his win-loss is literally 104, 118. He's negative.
Yeah, that's not good.
And he pitched from 2010 to 2017 when the Giants won World Series. And his ERA in like 2011, 2.88. 2012, 2.79. His year he came up, granted it was only 7 games. In 2005, he threw 2.33. But that's also coming up. People don't know what your tendencies are yet. So I usually, for pitchers, discount the very first year.
Yeah.
But he's been right around 3, although he's had some really bad years, but he got 0 run support in his career. As a Giants fan, like, I can't tell you how many games I feel like I watched where he was like, he gave up like 2 runs and lost the game because literally it was 2-0 that they lost.
It's funny. So when Corey Kluber pitched for the Indians, he was notorious for getting no run support. Like, the dude would go out and throw like 7 shutout innings and would get 0 run support, and he'd end up with a no decision.
Yeah.
Like, so many times. It was disgusting. And that was like when he was in the middle of like his Cy Young runs, like where he won 2 Cy Youngs. Just like let's see.
So Matt Kane, just to put in perspective, when he retired, was 3rd on innings pitched for the Giants. A career. Yeah. Like there's only 2 people above him that have pitched more innings for the Giants. And that's Gaylord Perry and Juan Marichal.
Okay. Yeah, like all-time greats.
Yeah, like literally all-time greats. Yeah. He started 331 starts, which is 2nd all-time for the Giants. He's actually tied for 5th with the most wins at 104, which is a little surprising considering how little run support he got.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get down to like where he's 3rd in strikeouts for the Giants. So he lost 77 career games that he had what you would consider a quality start, where he gave up less than 2 to 3 runs. I think 3 runs is what it is for a quality start.
It's 2 or less.
Yeah, 2 or less in 5 innings. So 70.
Wait.
Isn't it 5 innings?
I think it's 6.
Maybe it's 6.
5 is for a win. Quality start, I think, is 6.
Okay. But yeah, he lost 77 quality starts.
I'm trying to look up the quality start just to double check. Okay, it's actually, so you were right. It's 3 runs or less over 6 or more innings.
Over 6. Okay. So think about that. The Giants lost 77 of his quality starts. If you put 77 of his losses into wins,
yeah,
that makes him 180, 81 to 40 something.
Yeah, that's nuts.
that's instead of 104 to 118, which is technically a losing record.
Yeah,
like that's insane to me. Like, that's how little run support he got.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But to me, although at the same time I'm like, man, I can't believe he only pitched, 230 230 games, 225 games with the Giants.
Well, no.
He pitched more than
331.
that. It's just what he got decisions for, yeah.
Right. Or, yeah.
342.
Plus.
But that to me is
okay. He started 331. He came out of the bullpen a few times, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was postseason stuff when he came out of the bullpen.
That makes sense.
But Matt Cain is, like, in my opinion, one of the epitomes of, like, just bad run support. Like, imagine having 118 losses and losing 77 quality starts. Like, your team can't score 4 runs for you, 3 runs for you.
Yeah.
Get you.
Only they had the DH.
I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah, so Madison Bumgarner is my last guy. It sucks to say because he had a good career with the Giants, but like I think people still judge him and like talk about him based on his postseason stuff when they won the championships, and that's just not who he is anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's definitely fallen off quick once he left San Francisco.
Oh yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
That was a fun one. Anything else you want to throw on the overrated, underrated?
No, I think we're good. We threw our honorable mentions out in the beginning. So.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you were here live at twitch.tv/Bases and Brews. Everybody else, if you're listening to it on podcasts or anywhere, check us out on YouTube. Throw us a follow on there, or what is it? A subscribe. Yeah, throw us a subscription on there. Doesn't cost you anything. We do this every week on Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch us live and hang out, we are on Twitch, is where we record everything, twitch.tv/Bases and Brews. If you want to watch some past episodes, we have all of our episodes on YouTube and pretty much any podcast service you could ask for, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, any of the other ones. If you want to catch our post-podcast show, you definitely need to check us out on Twitch. And with that, everybody, have a great week. We'll see you next week for another episode of Bases and Brews.
Later, everybody.